So there we're recording. Share my screen.
Yeah, see, I cannot record in addition to yours.
Okay, so after this, we'll send you the recording, so you'll have a copy for yourself too.
Right, thank you.
Okay. And people are logging in now, so.
Great. Are you logged in?
By the way, Franklin, the Eventbrite thing worked perfectly.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
did.
no, we're really excited that it's working out really well. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a huge improvement. Thank you. But if Toni gets more than 37 people, I think it's overcounting.
Well, I had 56 the other day for the Master Gardeners event.
Oh, just show off.
Yeah, it went really well. People were, you know, it's always a little intimidating to.
Now remember, everyone can hear you, Toni.
That's true. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
So I want to thank everybody for joining us. We'll be starting in a few minutes. This is what's coming up at the library in the next few months or weeks. We'll have more events up soon on Eventbrite so people can start registering.
Oh, made possible by love. That's wonderful.
And then on June 1st, summer reading begins, so we'll have more information soon. And today's workshop is being recorded and will be on the library's YouTube channel. So if you know people are asking about it, just direct them to the library and it'll send you to YouTube. So, and then today when you have questions, we're asking everybody to put your questions in the Q&A box or in the chat, and then we'll read them to Toni today. So thank you all again for coming. My name is Franklin Escobedo. I'm the Larkspur Library Director. We'll give it a few more minutes. Hopefully more people will come. We have 13 attendants right now. But I know a lot more people have signed up to come. So we were worried about people signing in through Eventbrite. But I see you guys are slowly coming in. So again today, when you have questions, please use the Q&A box or the chat. And then we can, I'll read the questions to Toni and she'll answer our questions hopefully. So we'll just give it a few more minutes. And again, I'm going to share my slides so you can see what's coming up at the library. Sorry about that, gotta go backwards. So this is today's event. You can garden for life with Toni Gattone. Next Saturday is our Fire Smart Garden planning, and Joe Jennings is joining us today and he'll talk a little more about that in a few minutes. We're lining up more garden virtual workshops through the summer and through the fall. So this list will get longer and more. And again, we'll be putting them up on Eventbrite so you can register. We love that it sends reminders. Today's event was made possible by the Friends of the Library and the Commons Foundation and the UC Master Gardeners of Marin. So thank you to them. Just a reminder that summer reading is starting on June 1st, and we're going virtual this year. Just keep watching us. We'll send out notices when people can start downloading the Loot app that you can participate with summer reading. Don't forget to follow us on our social media. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And we do post all of our events do go on all these listings. So when we have something coming up, you'll see a notice about it. And again, thank you for coming today. Just a reminder that the workshop is being recorded and will be posted to the library's YouTube channel. And again, on the bottom of your screen, you should see a chat, raise your hand, and a Q&A. And we ask you to put your questions in the box, either in the Q&A box or the chat, and then we'll answer them as they come in or when we pause for questions. So, and again, today we're here with You Can Garden for Life with Toni Gattone. And I've now lost my script, so hang on a second, guys.
Welcome, everybody. We'll be starting in just a couple minutes. So happy to see you joining.
I'm going to start with your intro, Toni. So,
Right.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay. So, Toni Gattone fell in love with gardening and in her grandfather's backyard in Chicago, but it wasn't until she moved to Northern California that her passion began to bloom. She was a sales executive in corporate America for 17 years. Then she established her company selling gifts and garden products to the retail market. And after nearly 3 decades, Toni closed her business so she could focus on her encore career as an author and a speaker. In 2017, she presented this seminar to the Northwest Flower and Garden Show in Seattle. And afterwards, an editor from Timber Press Publishers approached her to write a book based on the seminar. Her book, The Lifelong Gardener, Garden with Ease and Joy at Any Age, came out last summer and can be purchased at our website at tonigattone.com and at our local bookstores, The Book Passage, and on Amazon. And it should be in the library's collection too, but we're looking to get a digital copy. Today's seminar, You Can Garden for Life, reflects Toni's true passion, helping gardeners do what they love to do. So garden for life in comfort and safety and joy, and join me in welcoming Toni Gattone.
Well, thank you so much, Franklin and Joe Jennings, for starting to really put this all together. It's much appreciated, and I'm really excited to be here. You know, we're all here today because of our love of gardening. And I'm here today because I was blessed by a lot of love and wonderful things that I inherited from my mother. Her bad back was not one of them. And so I'm here today to share with you ways that you can continue to garden, even if your bad back, your bad knees, your shoulder, your leg, whatever, if it's, you know, so that you can go out and garden and have fun in the garden rather than worrying about, you know, I gardened too long yesterday and now my body is killing me. So I'm going to share with you lots of ideas, many of which are designed to help save you time, money, but above all, energy. I've got a slide. The seminar is divided into 3 parts, as is the book. The first part is all about you and your body and what you can do to protect yourself when you're out in the garden. The second, of course, is about your garden and how you can re-envision your garden so it really works for you. And then the third part is on tools. And I've got lots and lots of tools that I can share with you today. I know gardeners love their tools. So at the end of each part, I'll put up a question slide, and that'll cue Franklin at the Larkspur Library for to read the questions to me. And then we'll also ask questions at the very end. Okay, well, let's get moving, shall we? So what is adaptive gardening? I know it's kind of an awkward term, but it's basically for you to be able to figure out how you can adapt so that when you're out in the garden, it works for you. I went from calling it adaptive gardening to resilient gardening because I think resilience is the key to help us to get past when we're experiencing any kind of pain or trauma or going through shelter in place. Let's face it, this is a good test for us to learn how to work on our resilience skill. So who's going to benefit? I don't know what's on that slide, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, I see what it is. Who's going to benefit? And it's really for, not just for senior gardeners, but people of any age that want to be able to, even kids, young kids, older kids, novice gardeners who really want to keep gardening and learn how to do it right from the very beginning. So here's part one. And the part one, as I mentioned, is all about you. This is, when you get to that point when things become difficult, what chores have become difficult for you to use? I have a friend that used to love spreading mulch out in her garden after she was done with the weeding, the transplanting, the planting, because it finished off her garden beautifully, like the frame around a picture. She got to the point where she couldn't lift those bags anymore. So how are you going to get around that? These are some of the things that we'll look at. Ways that you can change, ways that you can find to get something done. So one of the things, when I started writing the book, it was really with seniors in mind, but because we have lots of issues that we experience as we age. Limited mobility issues, like I mentioned, the back, the knees, the shoulder, the wrist, all of that, all of those issues that can really bring pain to us in and out of the garden. Balance impairment is something, that we all have to be aware of, and slower reaction time. And if you have these two issues, may I suggest that you don't get on a ladder with a power tool, because that could be a recipe for a disaster. So think about these issues when you're getting up, to do any work in the garden. Reduced vision and depth perception. I had to have eye surgery a couple of years ago. And after a week, after that gas bubble had dissipated, I found that I thought I was ready to go out and garden. I grabbed my pruners, I put on my long gauntlet gloves, and I went out to the garden and almost cut off my finger because my depth perception was still off. So, it's something that we all have to be aware of, especially when you're dealing with eye surgery. Decreased muscle strength and chronic pain such as arthritis. We use our hands for everything in the garden. So if we've got pain in our hands, no matter what the cause, that's going to have a real effect on how well we can hold tools and how well we can actually tend to our garden. So we all have a new normal, and the new normal is bringing us, whether we're talking about sheltering in place or we're talking about having to change how we garden, we have to accept what is, and we have to grow our resilience. I think the thing that I discovered that I wanted to share with you most formally is that when I was doing the research for this book, is that you're not alone. They say that 80% of people have back aches. And, that's a huge percent of the population. So, but my feeling is we're not alone, and we can learn from one another. That's the bottom line. And if we all can develop the attitude of never giving up, that to me is the real key to making a successful garden, whether it's your first garden or you've been doing it for decades. Couple of things that you can do to protect yourself. Of course, SPF 45 is the minimum that you should use for your sunscreen. And if you're going to buy a hat, you're going to buy any kind of apparel for sun protection, you know, they've got those great shirts that really breathe, but they were going to protect your arms from the sun. May I suggest you look for the code UPF 50. That's going to be your best sun protection for any kind of apparel that you may want to buy. And as I mentioned to you, you know, it all starts with your hands. A couple of products that I find have really worked well for me. Here's the hands. I've been using this product now for close to 20 years. It's a great product for sealing your hands before you go out, but most particularly it's great after you come in, after you finish gardening. It's a great way to refresh your hands and heal your hands from the drying effects of if your hands are in the soil. Now, I suggest using gloves. And this is one brand, the Foxglove brand, that I happen to use all the time. They're designed so well that you can feel the difference between a live leaf and a dead leaf. And then the gauntlets that you see in the second picture on the far right are the ones that are going to protect your arm. So if you're dealing with roses, berries, citrus, anything that has thorns, even succulents, may I suggest that you get yourself a good pair of gauntlet gloves. And also, when you're going out into the garden, you know, you want to think about having good, sturdy shoes. My suggestion is that it be a closed-toed shoe and it have a back on the heel so that you don't inadvertently step out of the shoe. If you have a back brace, such as my model here is showing, I'd suggest that you wear it when you're out in the garden. It'll remind you that it's not going to prevent you from hurting your back, but it'll remind you that you've got a bad back and you should think about it. Same thing with a knee wrist or a knee or wrist brace. If you've got it, wear it when you're out in the garden and get a garden glove that'll cover it up to keep the soil out. It'll really help you to remember what's going on with your body so that you can do it comfortably. Now, I'm one, because I do have a bad back and bad neck, I always keep cold packs in the freezer. They're always there for me when I need them. And you couple that with having, you know, your water bottle, glass of water next to you at all times when you're in the garden. It'll really help, because one of the things that we've come to find out as we age is that we don't handle temperature changes like we used to. You know, I grew up in Chicago, where we used to go to the Lake Michigan and we'd lay out in the sun all day long. I can't be out for an hour when it really starts getting hot here in Larkspur because I just don't handle the temperature anymore. And I've heard from a lot of people that that's kind of the same for them as well. So, but here's a suggestion. Before you actually go out into the garden, may I suggest that you warm it up? In my book, I brought in a woman by the name of Dr. Suki Munsell, and I asked her to put together 8 different exercises that would be good for gardeners to do before they go out into the garden. And as a means of stretching, as a means of getting your body warmed up. And maybe if you're not into stretching, do some Tai Chi, some yoga, or put on some of your favorite music and dance. The main thing is to get warmed up before you go out into the garden. And then once you're out in the garden, may I suggest that you switch it up? And what do I mean by that? Well, my friend Alana here is over here. She's raking away. And I suggest that she do that for maybe 20 minutes or so. And then switch over and use totally different muscle groups, such as right now she's on her knees and she's stretching down, as opposed to when she's pruning and she's reaching up. In each of these three chores, she's using different muscles. So she's not going to have that repetitive movement, which is what causes pain. And proper form. This is my friend Nancy. Nancy was demonstrating for us the best way to pick up that heavy bag, keeping it close to your body at all times. And using your knees, we've all heard this, and this is just a reminder, to use your knees and your legs to bring it up, rather than bending over and using your back. And I think it's important that you remember that you really want to at all times keep it safe. No one over 65 years old should ever be on a ladder. It's the #1 cause of people having to go to the ER. So replace your ladder with a good solid step stool that has a grab bar on the top that you can grab onto, so that, you know, even if you're reaching a little bit, you've still got one hand on the grab bar. And of course, clear your clutter, eliminate tripping hazards, which we'll talk about a little bit in part 2. And then if you have stairs, put in railings, or if you've got the room to eliminate your stairs and put in a ramp, that's the best way to go. It's thinking about how your garden and how you garden now, as opposed to how you want to garden or will need to garden in the future. And then there's a couple of ideas for you of how you can simplify your time. And the first is to be opportunistic. After the drip irrigation goes off, or after we get a rain, doesn't happen too often these days, but we did get some rain last week. That's a great time to go out and weed. It's also, when it's cloudy out, it's a great time to transplant so that your plants don't go into shock when you're planting them. And when it starts heating up, and I understand we're going to get some high temperatures this week, may I suggest that you think about organizing your day so that you're out gardening in the morning, early in the morning, or much later in the afternoon or early evening when it's cooler. And then the last is that I wanted to share with you about this is the 20-10 rule. And I heard about this from a gardener up in Ukiah, who's a physical therapist, by the way. And what she indicated is that she will go out and garden for 20 minutes, and then she'll take 10 minutes off. And she said it's especially important when you're pruning, because if you're going in and you're pruning a large shrub, I think it's important that you prune for a while, stand back, look at your work, look at that shrub from various different angles. It's a good way to just rest, check out what you're doing before you proceed again. And, you know, my suggestion is for people, if you're, you know, at some point when we can start actually being social again, may I suggest that you look into joining a garden club. If you don't have a place that you can garden in your backyard, maybe you're living in an apartment or a condo, join a community garden. It's a great way to learn about gardening from other people. And it's a great place. If you're growing food and you got too much zucchini, it's a great way to offload some of that zucchini. And of course, you know, I'm a master gardener. My life changed significantly when I became a master gardener. And I didn't really know that much about gardening when I joined back in 2011. But I'll tell you, it's a wonderful organization. And it's a great way to meet lots of really fun, like-minded people. So hopefully next year we'll be able to go forward with our Master Gardener events. And then last but not least is have a garden party. I think it's a fun way to, again, when we're past the shelter in place, it's a fun way to bring people together to help get some projects done in your garden and then feed them. The gardeners love to eat. So, you know, use the food that's in your garden to feed them at lunch. We did it one day and we made a honey lavender lemonade that was absolutely fantastic. And a few people stayed afterwards. We added a little vodka to the lemonade, and we really had a great garden party. All the way around, it was fun. So get to that place. Get to that place of looking for creative ways to get things done when the way you've always doing it doesn't work for you anymore. And remember to say basta. My mom was Italian. Basta means enough. Tell yourself basta. When you're starting to think, I'll just do one more project. No, say basta. It's enough for today. And then take it easy. Because done is better than perfect. So Franklin, are there any questions I can answer for people?
I need to see if anything comes in. So if you have questions, please put them in either in the chat box or in the Q&A.
Okay. Well, then let's just go on. This next part is going to be about how to rethink your garden. So I suggest that you start seeing your garden with what I call adaptive gardening eyes. In other words, evaluate the size of your garden. Perhaps, I have a garden friend who had acreage, and she finally figured out that what was important to her was to develop the garden around her house where people are going to be coming. So that, you know, in the front of the house, of course, and in the back of the house where she likes to do entertaining. You know, maybe there's parts of your garden that you don't need to cultivate if it's a big garden. So evaluate what's really important in that as far as size is concerned. And then, is it accessible? Is it easy for you to go to the garden center, bring in bags of compost? Do you have an easy way to get to your garden that is going to be improve the accessibility? How about the water? Are your water spouts close enough that you can get a hose to every part of the garden? If not, you may want to invest in longer hoses so that you don't have to undo a hose or redo a hose or stretch it too far. So look into the accessibility aspect. And then, of course, if you have a lovely garden like this one, where there is seating in the shade, I think it's really an important place for you to be able to hang out, not just to rest in between when you're gardening, but also to be able to just sit down and be in your garden. We don't always have to be working in the garden. We can just be in the garden and be grateful for what we've got. And then last but not least are paths and hardscape. This is something that I talked about in my book, and I think it's really something that we all need to think about, because many of us put in these flagstone paths that you can see. This is my own garden, the flagstone path, with ground cover that has grown in between it. Well, that's a tripping hazard, because if the ground cover is at the least bit wet, it's easy enough for you to slip on. And then here's another one. Here's another flagstone path. We all seem to get seduced by these flagstone paths. over the years. This is my friend Joe Jennings' old hardscape, where he had flagstone with stones in between. And they were consistently a problem because he also had this on his patio. And if people would come over, inevitably their chairs would fall off the flagstone and into the stones, and people were uneasy by it. It just didn't feel like it was safe. So it's important to eliminate those tripping hazards. Here's the hardscape before and after. This was the permeable driveway that, once again, these little holes were all filled with decomposed granite. And the decomposed granite, dirty little secret, is that it blows away. And you can continue to reinforce that and put more in each year, but it's still going to blow away, and you're never going to have every single one of those spaces to be perfectly level with the concrete itself. So the solution is to go with interlocking pavers, totally eliminating the problem of people not being safe in a driveway. So the solution is to have a solid 3 to 4 foot wide path. Either of these paths would be absolutely ideal, and it would totally allow for you to have a safe pathway and hardscape throughout your garden. The concept from Master Gardeners of right plant, right place, I think is really important because, many of the growers are no longer putting onto the plant labels the idea of how big that plant's going to be in 3 years. I made a mistake once. This is my small front yard. I made the mistake once of planting a fig tree. And a couple of days after I planted it, a friend came over and said, Tone, tell me that's a dwarf. And I said, no, it's not a dwarf. She said, is it a semi-dwarf? I said, no, it's not. But I vowed to her when I realized that that was a mistake, that I would try to keep it under 6 feet. And I did for the first couple of years. But 1 year after I pruned it really well in the winter, it doubled in size. So I ended up giving it away. I have a landscaper friend who came and dug it up for me. And, it's actually better now that it's gone, because now there's more breathing room out there. So it was the right plant. It just wasn't in the right place. And then the other thing to keep in mind is to hydrozone. And what do I mean by that is, you want to have sun, shade, and water all the same in a particular area. It's like I had a girlfriend that called me and said, hey, Toni, I don't know what the problem is. I know that both roses and succulents really love sun, but why are my succulents looking so bad? Well, it's because she's watering the roses, which are right next to the succulents. Succulents don't want half the water, 1/10 the amount of water that roses do. So keep hydrozoning in mind when you're planning your garden. And then you want to have a sustainable garden. So you want to be able to use compost and mulch. In other words, when you're out planting in your garden, whether you're in a container or you're in the ground, add compost with the natural soil in the ground. You can also add compost to potting soil when you're using containers. And then add mulch afterwards. It's going to really help to keep the water retained. And it just is, a lot of plants want to have their planted area covered in mulch to keep more moisture and less sun beating down on the roots. So it's a good thing to use both of those. Of course, you want to have organic gardening, and that just means no pesticides. Should you get into having an issue with any of your plants, go to the UC Integrated Pest Management website. And you can go into the web and type in ucipm.edu. And you can look up anything according to the plant, or if you know what the pest or the disease is, and it'll give you the research tested ways of curing any of the problems or diseases that you might incur. And it'll do it without the use of pesticides. So that's ucipm.edu. I also suggest plant natives. They're going to use less water. You water them the first year, and once they're in, they'll need very little water going forward. So it's a great way to think sustainably by decreasing the amount of water that your garden is going to require. And last but not least, if you still have a lawn, there's lots of things that you can plant in place of the lawn. You could go to the Master Gardener website and get lots of ideas of how to eliminate your lawn and how you can have an alternative to it that'll be more sustainable. Now, I do suggest, you know, when the very first raised bed that my husband Tim and I bought was a raised bed, and it was about this high. Well, that was great until Tim needed to have his knee replaced and my back went out again. So I'd walk by every day and say, I hope you guys are doing okay, because I can't help you. All I can do is water. Later on that year, when both of us had a healthy body again, we elevated that raised bed. And this is one of the 2 raised beds that we have in our garden. If you're going to do this, may I suggest to you that you try to build them waist high, if at all possible. It's a great way so that you can prevent having to bend over in order to plant, tend, or harvest your garden. And I suggest that they be a minimum of 12 inches deep and a maximum of about 3 to 4 inches wide. You're going to find there's many, many less pests when you start using raised beds and containers. Should you be in a wheelchair, there are some fabulous designs online and places that you can actually buy ready-made raised beds that are elevated enough for a wheelchair to be able to fit underneath. And this is the one on the right I wanted to show you. It's called a keyhole raised bed, which, you know, when you think about going in and you can just go from one side to the next, it's a great way to save energy when you're out in the garden. And if you're going to do containers, the size really does matter. For example, again, that minimum depth of 12 inches, and that's minimum. You can go much deeper than that. And you want the pot to be taller than it is wide. And why do I say that? Well, you know those beautiful low bowls that you've seen, low bowls, they're like this. They're not water efficient. They're going to dry out far too quick. So you want something that's taller than it is wide. And then you want it to be wider at the top than it is at the bottom. So what happens if you're using a container that's this way? If the audio was turned on, I know you would all be able to say, how are you going to get that plant out, Toni, when you want to transplant? That's what it's all about. If you've got a pot that's shaped like this and you want to take it out, or even take it out so you can add more soil to it, you're going to be hard pressed to do it without breaking the pot. So this is the shape of pots that you should try to buy going forward. There's some fabulous lightweight pots that are out on the market, fiberglass pots. In my previous career, I sold a lot of pots, and there are some that I've seen at nurseries where I have to go and knock on them to make sure that they're not heavy duty. They're doing some great things with fiberglass these days. And then, of course, the most important part of having any kind of container is that you've got drainage. They absolutely have to have drainage because they don't like wet feet. And you know, you've seen, first of all, you see saucers at nurseries. Don't buy the saucers. The problem, you know, a lot of people think they have the saucers there, I guess I should buy them. You don't need saucers. Saucers are going to give your plants wet feet. So eliminate the saucer. And some people have been using, I had pot feet that I had years and years ago, and you know, they're, I don't know, a couple of bucks a piece. I've recently found this product. It's called, let's see, it's just a piece of square rubber. It's called pot risers. And you can just put one of these, you know, excuse me, 4 of these under each pot, and you've got great drainage, and they cost pennies. So why not look for something like that and also keep your pots and your plants healthy as a result. There's also some things that you can do when you're looking for containers. Go up in your attic, see what you've got up there. I once saw at an open house, a real estate open house, I saw a collection of trophies from somebody's attic, and they turned them into a whole succulent display, which was really kind of cool. Go to garage sales. This happens to be an old toolbox that somebody obviously drilled holes in, because you wouldn't want to plant anything into a rusted toolbox, any kind of product like that. Not if you're going to grow edibles. So there's pots within the toolbox for these plants, okay? But there's just, you know, let your imagination go. See what you've got around the house. As long as you can drill a hole in it, it's a container. It's a fun way to go. I also suggest that there's ways that you can garden up vertically. On the left are the royal blue gutter gardens. And these gutter gardens, again, this is something if you're going to grow food, if you're going to grow succulents, not so much of a problem. You can use used, recycled gutters. But if you're going to plant food, may I suggest you only work with new gutters. And in this particular one, they painted them royal blue, drilled holes about every 6 inches, added some soil, and put in shallow rooted plants, such as salad greens or lettuces. And then you can have an abundance of edibles to choose from every day. The one on the right is strawberries. And again, it's gutters that they've got hanging. You can see the rebar that supports these gutters. So just think about how much fun that would be every day, going out there and picking your strawberries right off the vines. And it's just a great way to grow them easily so that they're at eye level. Same thing with if you live in an apartment or a condo. You know, a lot of people complain that, you know, their HOA won't let them to drill holes in, you know, and anywhere on the walls, so they can't grow anything. But they can do railing planters, such as these 2 on the left. If you've got a skinnier railing or a thicker railing, there's lots that's available. Window boxes are fun as well. Again, you can stand up easily to see what it is you're harvesting. So easy and eye level are definitely the way to go. Are there any questions, Franklin?
So there was one, someone asked that, or they said the dandelions have wiped out part of their lawn.
I'm sorry?
So dandelions have wiped out part of a lawn. So that was one question. So I don't know if they're asking what we can do about that.
Well, there is something to be said that you can eat dandelions. I will say that they can do that research online, because dandelions are definitely edible. It's a way of foraging. um, my suggestion is that you eliminate the lawn altogether.
And now someone asked, what food can we plant right now?
Oh, right now, I mean, May is the perfect time to plant just about everything. Salad greens, lettuces, herbs, tomatoes. And tomatoes, by the way, you're kind of late starting with seeds for tomatoes. So you'd be best to, buy tomatoes starts at the nurseries. But gosh, I mean, this is the perfect planting time. Think about what you want to eat, and that's what you should plant. Okay. I always like to plant Swiss chard, and it's not my husband's favorite vegetable, but I always include it, one, because I like to eat it, and two, because it's so beautiful in a garden, especially that bright lights with all the various colors on the stems. It's a fabulous plant. But yeah, just this is the time. Whatever you want to plant it now.
So
May, June is perfect.
So there's another question: where can we find these products?
Well, it's hard going into nurseries these days. I went to one of my nurseries the other day. I couldn't even get in because there was no parking available. I am now selling many of the tools that I'll be talking about in this next part on my website, tonigattone.com. And I sold tools for almost 30 years. So I know what good quality ergonomic tools are all about. And I've chosen about 24 that are on my online store. Yeah, thank you.
And then someone asked, and I know got asked at the last one too, how do you deter deer chomping on plants?
Oh, wow. Well, I would strongly suggest you try to put up a fence if at all possible. We have, where I'm at here in Larkspur, they just walk down the street like they own it. But, we happen to be in back of gates and hedges so that they can't get in. The deer are really a problem for a lot of gardeners. There are deer repellent products that are on the market. But what I might suggest to you is to look into ways that you can actually plant the kinds of things that they don't like they don't like rosemary, they don't like lavender, they don't like things that have a fragrance. And I'm fairly confident that the Master Gardener website has a list of those plants that typically, not 100%, typically deer will not eat.
Okay, so there's another one about what do you recommend for squirrels in vegetable beds?
Oh gosh, whenever I plant anything brand new, little tiny starts, I always use bird netting, and have it go all the way down to the ground to try to keep them out. That's what works for me. I know a lot of people have various means that they go through, but I think it's important that you protect the plants, especially when they're brand new, to keep all those critters from coming out. Yeah.
So someone's also asked about how about a visit to your home garden?
That would be delightful. I would love that. As a matter of fact, I wanted to make mention that I've got my book that I'm going to I sell also on my online store. And I was going to suggest to you that if you can order it at any of the bookstores on Amazon, but if you order it through my website, I will not only autograph it for you, I'll allow for you to come by, do a drive-by pickup, and I'll show you my garden. We'll stay 6 feet apart, but I would be happy to show you what we're doing in our garden. So thanks. Okay, part 3. This is all about tool time. This is the part that everybody loves because they all love their tools. the first important thing that I wanted to mention to you about buying tools is that you need to keep ergonomics in mind. You know, for example, I'll show you a tool right now that I'm going to talk about in a minute, but this is called a radius tool, and it's a funny looking tool when you think about it. But what I like about it is that it keeps my wrist in a completely neutral position. I don't have to go like this in order to use it. Ergonomics is huge. And so keeping your wrist in a neutral position is the best way to avoid wrist pain, which we all tend to, for whatever reason, we all tend to suffer from at one point or another in our lives. And then speaking about grips, you can cushion your tool handles so that if you have decreased muscle strength in your hands, I went down to our local bike shop and I asked them if they had any kind of, if they had any bike grips that they were going to be getting rid of. And so he gave me one and I was able to wedge it on to that trowel that's in the planter there. And it became a larger, but yet softer and a cushier grip. So it was easier on my hand. Another thing you can do is use a product called Plastidip. I heard about this when I did a seminar for a women's group in Mill Valley. And a woman shared a story that she was remodeling her garden, and she had hired a crew of guys to help her. And she noticed after a couple of days that a few of her tools had disappeared. So she didn't want to accuse anybody of anything because she wanted to get the job done. But she went to her local hardware store and she bought Plastidip, and she bought it in pink. And she came home from the store and she dipped all of her tool handles in pink. And not one of her tools disappeared after that. I like it. I use it in either red or in yellow because there's nothing worse than losing tools in the debris. You know, you're out there, you're cleaning up your garden, you happen to put down a tool, and the next thing you know, you pick up all that debris and you know, it gets thrown out inadvertently. Every gardener has lost their tool at one time or another doing that. So, but it also makes it a little bit more of a cushion. Again, easier on your hand. If you are at all visually impaired, I drilled holes into the trowel. It's got a 5-inch long head on the tool. And I drilled holes so that if I were planting bulbs, for example, where I need to know if it's 2 inches deep or 4 inches deep, I would be able to feel the depth that the trowel and the bulb are going into. And speaking of bulbs, this is a no-bend seed and bulb planter. And what I did is I took a piece of PVC, and you can see, you know, I cut it on a diagonal here, cut it on a diagonal. And you can take this, if you look at the picture number 1, I used the PVC to make a furrow in the soil. Picture number 2 is that I would put a seed into the planter, move it a few inches, whatever your directions say on your package of seeds, put another seed in, move it a few inches, put another seed in, move it. You catch my drift here? And then you use it to cover the seeds up with a little bit of soil, and it's how you can plant your seeds, or for that matter, bulbs. You just have to have the PVC large enough to drop your bulbs in, you know, with the pointy end up, using PVC, and you don't have to bend down to do it. This is a great tool. It's called an Easy Grip. And again, it's got a funny look, and it's a perpendicular. I should have the tool here. I didn't bring that one, but so that you can actually keep your wrist in a neutral position. It's also good if you look at the picture in the very beginning, excuse me, in the middle, it's got an arm grip so that you can fit that tool into the arm grip if you need that extra support. And you can also have a long reach, easy grip as well. Now, the most important tool that you'll ever use is a good pruner. And, you know, everybody's got their preferences. I mean, I tend to use Felco pruners or even a Corona pruner that I've really gotten to like lately. But the most important thing with any pruner that you buy, the reason I can't recommend one pruner over the next to you is because it depends on how it fits your hand. This tool, this particular pruner fits my hand perfectly so that whether it's open or closed, it works for me. Even within the Felco line, there's probably at least a dozen different sizes that you can choose from. So if you have a large hand versus a small hand, or you're a righty or a lefty, they've got a pruner for you that's going to work. Now, my advice, I have two pieces of advice when you buy a pruner. The first is ask the retailer if you can take it out of the packaging so that you can feel it in your hand. If the retailer says no, he won't let you do that, go someplace else. Because comfort is the most important thing when you're purchasing a pruner. And the other thing is buy the best quality pruner that your budget will allow for you to buy. It's the one tool that you will buy that if you take care of it, it will last you for decades. And I'm quite serious about that. And the other thing that one pruner I do recommend that if you're getting into doing vertical gardening, these are some climbing roses that I have. The cut and hold short reach pruner is a great tool because it allows for me, as I'm vertically challenged, I'm all of 5'1". It allows for me to be able to reach my climbing roses easily without having to get on a ladder. And what's cool about this one is that when you cut a flower, a rose, whatever it is that's climbing, it hangs onto it. And then you can just take it and drop it into the debris can and you're done and you don't have to bend over. Cool, huh? I also suggest this is the sharpener that I have come to find that I absolutely love. The first sharpener I ever bought was about this big. And I thought, I'm going to lose it. And I did. But then I found this one. And I really like this one because it's got the two different grits on either side for sharpening and for polishing. It's got a safety guard, so you're not going to accidentally hurt yourself. And this is one great tool. And you can use it not just on your pruners, but any of your tools that need to be sharpened. And then I know everybody uses trowels, and I've got a whole collection of trowels that I've gotten over the years. But if you're given a choice, look for the soil scoop. It's much more efficient for doing, especially for transferring soil. This is the one tool that I always have with me when I'm out in the garden. You can open bags of mulch with it. You can dig holes, you can cut roots, and it's also really good for carving pumpkins in the fall. So the soil scoop is a great tool to work with. If you don't have a hori-hori knife, every gardener I know loves their hori-hori knife. It's such a strong tool. You can use it for weeding and transplanting. I mean, I once used it when I hired somebody. We used to have bamboo in our front yard. What a useless plant. And I had hired somebody to come in and dig it up. And after he left, I realized there were some roots still in the ground. So I used that hori-hori knife to pull up those roots, and oof, all of my frustrations disappeared because it's such a great tool. If you're using raised beds of any kind, may I suggest that you look into long reach tools. They usually, you know, are about yay long and will just really help you to reach so that you don't have to strain your shoulder. And this is an expandable rake. I decided to show it to you today because this is one of my favorite tools. And this, there we go. So it goes from really wide, 21 inches, down to 7 inches. And it also goes longer as well. It's an expandable rake. I just, when I found this rake, I eliminated all the other rakes that were in my tool shed. And that's on my website. Here's that radius tool that I showed you a little while ago. Okay, funny looking, right? But this really does work for keeping your wrist in a neutral position. And it comes in all those different kinds of tools like you see in the photograph, and they're guaranteed for life. You don't see that very often. Oh, and they come in lots of different colors. Just because I show the one in purple, it's my favorite color, but it comes in, I think, 8 different colors. So there's lots to choose from there. This is called Cobra Head. It's a weeder and cultivator. If you look at the picture on the bottom, you can see it looks like it's a fingernail, and it's great for edging. It's great for weeding. And it comes in a little, I guess I don't have it here. It comes in a small mini, comes in the original size, and then it also has a long-handled 54-inch tool. And then this, if I had to choose one, this is my absolute favorite tool in the garden. It's my husband, Tim, kneeling down on his reversible kneeler bench. We like this tool so much, we've got several of them. And the picture on the right is my friend Pat Randolph, because she reversed the bench. So now she can sit on it next to her container, her wooden wine barrel, easily without having strain. So you just turn it upside down and you are ready to go. I'm the type that I'm always forgetting things, so I really have stopped and told myself, okay, what do I need in order to do the gardening that I want to do today? Take all those tools, put them into a tote bag. And what I like about this particular tote bag is that it's a puddle proof. It's got a rubberized bottom. So should you happen to put it down, it's not going to get soaking wet. And then another tool, the Hawes watering can. As a manufacturer's rep, I sold Hawes cans for decades. And it's the best watering can that's on the market. I mean, you can go out and spend a lot of money on a galvanized watering can, but they're empty to begin with. So this is a recycled plastic watering can. I mean, I have some that are 25 years old, and you know, they've gotten kind of banged up over the years, but guess what? There's still no leak. Hawes really are the best watering cans that are on the market. And the Water Right lightweight hoses, to me, are the best hoses that are on the market, because I once threw my back out just trying to move a hose around. You know how heavy they can be. And when I found these lightweight hoses, they're easier on the body. And this particular brand is really a good brand. I think they're out of the Pacific Northwest. Speaking of watering, I'm a big believer in the thumb-controlled hand sprayers, so that, you know, you don't have to squeeze. It's really issue if you've got arthritis to have to be able to squeeze your hand sprayer. So look for a good quality thumb control hand sprayer, and I think you'll be really happy. And then a couple of more quick tools that I've come to find that I love. One is called the pot lifter. And the pot lifter is really easy. I mean, you know, I told Tim one time that we had to move a boulder. and he was not real happy with me. But we were able to move the boulder with this pot lifter. We also have a lot of very heavy pots that are made of cast stone they're heavy when they're empty. And through using this tool, this pot lifter tool, both of us were able to lift a very heavy pot and move it. And then also the garden caddy. You know, as I mentioned, we have a pretty tiny garden here, but I have a friend up in Nevada who has 500 rose bushes. And she bought one of these garden caddies, and she just scoots around from rose bush to rose bush, and, you know, collects her debris and puts it in the tough toe to the tough bucket in the back of it. And she's happy as a clam. So some parting thoughts for you. You know, we all age and we have to learn to accept it. But there's things that you can do. You can adapt now, whether it's how you garden, when you garden, or you can adapt your garden now so it's done and you don't have to redo it in the future. I'm a strong believer that we get by with the help of our friends, and we create community when we garden together. And I really look forward to the time where we're going to be able to garden in community again. I miss that so much. And I know that we can garden for life with ease and joy. So with that, here's the book once again. And I wanted to make a mention that if you do order the book, it's $20. You can order the book on my website. You can put $20 in my mailbox. Either way, I'll put it in a bag and you can drive by and pick it up. But for all the books that are sold, I'm donating 10% of all sales to the Commons at Larkspur, the foundation that is raising money for us to have a brand new library here in Larkspur. And that's what Joe Jennings is all about. And with that, I want to say thank you and ask, are there any more questions?
So someone's asking, is your book available locally as well as online?
I believe it's at the Book Passage, and I think most of the bookstores are carrying it. Yes, yeah, it's already in the second printing, so it does seem like it's resonating with a lot of gardeners. Yeah.
So, and the next question was will there be handouts after with the names of the tools?
My suggestion would be to just go in. I didn't put together a handout for this. My suggestion is to go to my website and look at the online store.
So right now there's no more questions, but I was going to say, Toni, if you could stop sharing the screen so you can get bigger on the screen and show the tools again, because it's hard, they were a little small. So
okay. Well, this is let me put it over here. This is that tool sharpener that I mentioned, and it's really easy, you know, to take your tool and to, oops, the other way around. There's always a beveled edge. That's what you want to look for, is the beveled edge on your pruner. And it's just a matter of taking your sharpener along the edge. You can use the pointing edge to get in between. And that's really all you have to do in order to keep it really sharp. This is that radius tool, the funny shape tool. And this is a weeder. And this is the soil scoop. And you can see how much more efficient it's going to be from an energy standpoint when you're out there and you're scooping soil or mulch or whatever else you want to scoop. Anything else?
So no more questions. So
all right. Well, you know, Franklin, if I can leave everyone with one last idea, is that if you're going to be out in nature, and if you're going to be out in your garden, you're going to be growing your food, just look for ways that you can save time, save money, and above all, save energy, because we all love to garden. And I think it's really, really important that we find ways to do it with an adaptive gardening, sustainable way of getting it done. Thank you again. I so appreciate your coming today, and enjoy your gardens.
Don't log out yet, everybody. So Joe Jennings is here, and I was hoping he would talk a little bit about next week's program. Let me share that on the screen again.
Well, hi, everyone. Toni, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Toni, thank you for a wonderful talk.
Thank you.
You're a dear friend and a wonderful inspiration. And I think everybody over the age of 30 should be thinking about adaptive gardening.
Yeah.
Because you start to see these injuries occurring, and then you wonder, can I get back out in the garden? And Toni paints a path to doing that. Next Saturday, we have our first ever Marin IJ author interview. Faye Mark, who's with the Fire Smart Marin team, part of Master Gardeners, has an article appearing next Saturday on Fire Smart Gardening. And I'll be interviewing Faye about what's in the article and also things that people should think about in terms of maintenance in their yard this summer to minimize fire risk. So it'll start at 11 o'clock on Saturday. It should be very interesting, and we hope you all come. And now I realize suddenly I'm on, and this is not my best side, but it is the side showing. And I do want to thank Franklin and the Larkspur Library for letting us create an online class every Saturday at 11 for gardening in Marin. We will be dealing with a wide range of questions and issues, authors, speakers, and we just hope that you tune in on Saturdays, take a break from the garden, and learn things and ask questions and become part of this bigger community. So thank you again, Toni. Thank you, Franklin.
Yes.
And we'll see you all next Saturday at 11, Fire Smart Marin Gardening. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Everybody. Have a great Saturday and a great Memorial Weekend. And again, thank you, Toni Gattone, for being a great
My
speaker.
pleasure.
And we can't wait to see you in person too.
Yes.
You guys all have a great afternoon, and thank you again for attending. So,
all right.
Thank you,
Enjoy your
Franklin.
day.
you're welcome. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.